That's our general sense. Why are you now bullish on you weren't bullish on Bitcoin before,
Right.
rather, but why are you so bullish on DeFi now? What's
Okay.
kind of changed for you?
So let's go through it. So when Bitcoin first started really becoming popular in the early days, let's put aside 2009, 10, 11, 12, right? I was very familiar with it, very familiar with blockchain, but the original presentation or narrative, if you will, was that it was a currency, right? That it was going to be used as a currency by normal people in normal circumstances. And I just never saw that happening. To this day, I don't see it as being a replacement currency for the US dollar.
I want to know if you're feeling like internet vibes here, early internet vibes here. Is this like an internet of money, an internet of value? Is this like an internet 2.0 to you, or is it something different?
It's different, but there's a lot of similarities, right? So back in the day, people, so everything was analog, right? It was physical in a lot of respects. And so people looked at the internet as a way to simplify things and centralize things and make them available to everybody, right? That was the whole value of the net. And then you started to see unique applications. It's like my company, AudioNet. We took sporting events, we took radio stations, back in late 94, early 1995, when people didn't even know what the internet was.
Do you think that DeFi and crypto could be like an America 2.0? How important is it for politicians and Main Street to get their arms wrapped around how important this could be for the US as a country?
Ryan, that's a really interesting question, because the reality is, the strongest plays and the players are not American, right? We talk a lot about it, but the biggest money doesn't come from here, and the biggest, day-to-day usage from everyday people is not happening here, right? It's happening elsewhere around the world, but a lot of the development, not even the biggest, is happening here, right? A lot of the biggest and the original stuff that's been going on for a while is happening in Asia.
Here's part of my worry, Mark,
we did.
Okay, well, tell us about that, because my worry right now is the politicians don't get this, right? There's a few people in Congress who sort of are starting to wrap their heads around crypto. There's maybe Andrew Yang, who's talking about it a little bit, like in little pockets, but it felt like in the 90s.
Are you kidding me? I went to see senators and tried to explain it to them.
Yeah, what do they say?
No clue whatsoever. Are we doing anything to stop it? Kinda, whether it was copyright laws, whether it was dealing with bandwidth and dealing with, because remember, back in the 90s, you had a 56K modem, and the biggest inhibitor to the internet was bandwidth. And so there were a lot of laws put in place in terms of being able for cable and telcos and satellites in order to how and where and when they could build, the restrictions. Communities set their own restrictions. So you had multiple layers of problems in terms of just creating bandwidth.
Informed investors, imagine going and buying, investing in Apple stock in 2008 without ever having used an iPhone.
Let me give you a better example. So we'll go back to the 90s. So broadcast.com was going public in July of 1998. And we go on this thing called a roadshow. And a roadshow is where you make a presentation to investors. And we even got to take the Concorde to go to London and come back the day. It was unbelievable. But we would go into these presentations and we could see their eyes just glossing over. And there were rarely any questions. And the questions just showed that they had no clue what they were investing in. And then we go public. It's the biggest one-day jump in the history of the stock market at that time.
I do remember, I was, old enough to sort of remember this, the dot-com bubble. And everyone said that the internet is dead at that time after the bubble popped. It would never come back, and they dismissed the technology because of the speculative bubble. So it hurts in two ways, this kind of speculative nature of things.
Yeah, but you know what, that kind of takes care of itself over time, right?
Yeah.
Because the people who are just buying traffic and don't have something sustainable underneath it, they're going to be gone. It's just a question of when. You just hope enough individual players, buyers, I don't want to necessarily call them investors. If you're looking for a 50% APY, you're not investing. You got to know that there's...
I want to get back to the NFTs, because I think you have a unique, a take on this, Mark, is it feels like we are in the very first stages of NFTs, right? Like Disney hasn't discovered NFTs. My God, like the biggest marketing company in the world with massive communities hasn't discovered NFTs. Athletes have barely discovered it, right? Celebrities haven't discovered it. There are all of these communities outside of crypto. And what crypto provides and Ethereum provides is this blank canvas, essentially. So it's like the internet, anybody could spin up a website. Well, now anybody can create an NFT. How big could this get? And what do you think we're going to be seeing next?
It's a $100 billion industry, but probably not for 15, 20 years, right? No doubt about it. Because, and put aside the art side of it and the music side of it. Look at it from a business side of it. Talk college textbooks, right? Literally, I'm checking the market caps of the biggest companies that create college textbooks and asking, if they were severely undervalued, and like all companies now, they're overvalued to a certain extent because interest rates are so, relative to interest rates are not overvalued, but relative to history, they are. Just looking to see, should we be looking at buying these college textbook companies? Because there's no good reason at all to have a physical college textbook. The only reason they do it is because that's the way they've always done it. But the new style college textbook company is going to use, the equivalent of an NFT, whatever they decide to call it. Because now with college textbooks, they lose the resale value. That's why they're overpriced so much, right? So many kids buy, used textbooks like I did when I was in college.
Yeah, so this is moving across from analog to digital, maybe same economy in some respects. We're making it better. But tell us where value is going to accrue here, because there's kind of two layers we're talking about. One is like the money layer, the store of value layer. We might put Bitcoin there. We might put Ether there, although Ether also has some utility value, right? You have to use it to pay for transactions. Talk about that layer. And then let's talk about the layer up, which is the application layer, and where we've got all of these DeFi tokens. Where's value going to accrue here?
So it really depends on what happens with 2.0, right? Because there's a lot of bets for and against. The companies I work with, I try to make them blockchain agnostic, because everybody's trying to do their best to come up with an alternative to Ether or to complement it at some level. But if you're creating your own blockchain, you've got to have an application that's already driving it. So it's just like Flow with Top Shots.
So Mark, this is a conversation that we also have on the Bankless program quite a lot, which is where crypto, where blockchain, where Ethereum, and some of the biggest issues that we see in society intersect, right? And I know that you had a tweet that went pretty viral with the whole GameStop debacle and comparing and contrasting it to DeFi. And one of the big things that I think that Ethereum can bring to the world are solutions that are helping that can help mitigate some of the social unrest, the wealth inequality in this world, right? Like we saw the deplatforming of people that were wanting to trade on GameStop, right? Or wanting to trade on Robinhood, excuse me. And there's exactly what you were talking about, these broader conversations of wealth inequality, where in the legacy financial system, the non-crypto financial system, there's very well capitalized, entrenched players. And the younger millennials, the Zoomers, there's this sense of kind of despair that climbing the ladder and making a name for yourself is just too hard in this calcified system. And one of the value propositions of DeFi and Ethereum is there is no ladder. Everything is so new, it's so flat, it's easy to climb that ladder. And one of the narratives that we're trying to harp on is that this new world is unsaturated, and young entrepreneurs can do something cool in this world, and it can help solve some of the biggest social issues of the day. How do you think about this?
I agree. I mean, it's like the early days of the internet again, the early days of the PC industry, right? There were the tech dinosaurs, that never believed, oh, I'll never use a PC. Who the hell needs that? I got Betty and Susie and Sam over there. They do my PC work. They're going to die eventually, right? But it was opportunity when I was your age, right? And when everybody else was shitting on it, I was like, fuck y'all, this is going to change everything, right?
So I want to put this into a takeaway lesson for any of the listeners here. So for anyone who's new to DeFi, anyone who's listening in the stream, do know that DeFi and Ethereum and crypto, and basically that runs on narratives. So Mark, you've been on both sides. You've been on the legacy world, the legacy finance, and now you're playing in the crypto world. Understanding that everything runs on narratives, what should new players understand? What are the lessons that we can teach them right here on this live stream?
I tell everybody about a stock. Do your homework, right? no one sells you a token thinking the price is going to go up. Everybody sells, unless they just need the money, right? Or for some other external reason. Like, because particularly in crypto, because you could borrow against it. Now, maybe they're selling it because they got called in a margin or whatever because the price is going down. But you got to do your homework. You got to do your homework. You got to know why you're buying it, because if you don't know why you're buying it, you don't know why you'll sell it, right? So if I buy a stock, I'll hold it. And I learned this expensively, right? Because I used to try to time the market. I used to think, oh, I've got a great feel for the market. No. But what I learned, and what's paid me a lot of money since, is learn why I'm buying the stock. And until that changes, just hold on to the stock. And if it falls back and it still stayed the same, buy more. So if it's Injective and, they're not live, they're still in testnet. So, it's all just fun and games right now.